Happy is the feeling that can come and go. Joy is our natural state. So it's kind of like happy is the temperature in the room and joy is the thermostat, if you will. So our joy is kind of the antidote to heaviness. Joy is the antidote to being so serious. It gives you permission to drop that mask and to be your authentic you, which is what we're all here to do anyway. The necessity of joy and play for neurodivergent individuals. Hi, friends, it's Dianne here at Someone Gets Me. And today we're talking about joy and play and how that affects us as neurodivergent people. It's so important to bring joy into our lives and to allow play to be an active part of each and every day. Now, I know we can tend to be very serious and dive into things and have a lot of intensity in our lives. We also can have intense fun. Now, for me, joy has come pretty naturally. Joy is that inner state of well-being. It is that inner state of how we are. And so I look at it as joy means I jettison old ideas and things that don't serve me anymore, clean out the stuff. And the O means that I optimize my excitement and energy toward what I'm most passionate about. And the Y is to yield to timing, yield to our inner knowing, our intuition, our own guidance. See, oftentimes as neurodivergent people, we'll get a great idea and we will jump on it right away and think it has to be done by tomorrow. Well, maybe the world's not quite ready for it yet, or maybe we need to jettison some old things so we can really allow ourselves to bring into today that beautiful vision that you have. So our productivity, our way of being, is often measured in this society by what we're doing, how much we've accomplished, how many degrees do you have, what is your grades in school, what have you done, what have you created. Well, I want to say that I think we should measure our productivity and our happiness by how much joy we feel. How much of the old gook have we been clearing out? How we optimized greatness? And how have we learned to pay attention and yield to that impulse control issue, yield to the things that can get us in a bind? I'm working with some people right now. Actually, two of them have a very similar challenge, and that is that they're working in an environment where the people around them on their team aren't necessarily as astute and observant as they are. And so what happens is they assume, my clients assume that the others see things in the same way, but they don't. They can't, because they're not neurodivergent in the same way. So we want to resist the idea, we want to jettison the idea of judging those people or judging ourselves. It's just two different wavelengths. So if we are on the wavelength where we can see a greater, broader vision or more nuance, maybe, then I think it's on us to kind of match what we're saying with the people who maybe can't see the same nuance and help them see it or look at things through their lens. Now, I think that it's kind of interesting because what happens, I think, a lot of times is we take everything so seriously that we miss the joy. And the joy is that inner feeling that we have. It's that inner essence of our own natural state. Now, I see it different than happy. Happy is the feeling that can come and go. Joy is our natural state. So it's kind of like happy is the temperature in the room and joy is the thermostat, if you will. And joy is what helps us regulate our nervous system, helps us regulate our life so we have a good equilibrium. And what comes with that equilibrium is play. Now, play for some of us is really easy. I have a couple of people that I work with and play is easy for them. It's the getting serious that might be a little tricky. For me, I came by play as an active part of my daily life much later in life. I was very, very serious when I was younger. And I didn't really understand the power of play, nor did I think I was allowed to. I was raised in a world where my giftedness and my intelligence and the expectation of my productivity and school and things I had to succeed in overshadowed the idea of fun or play. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't have a good time, because I did. I had a lot of good friends. I had a lot of acquaintances. I sailed boats. I did all kinds of things that we would consider fun, but they weren't necessarily playful. So I look back on those times and I'm grateful for all of them. And I also am grateful that I was introduced to the idea of play several decades ago, I guess 3 decades ago now. And I remember first hearing about it going, play, like, we're serious adults. We have degrees. We have things we're supposed to do. We have to produce. And then I got it. That person who was trying to teach me finally got through my thick neurodivergent brain into the fact that play means that we can engage with the world with curiosity, with being lighthearted, childlike, not childish, that we can take off the mask of perfection, of seriousness, and we can return to our original essence, that joyful essence that is beautiful. And the moment I got that, just like that, it was like this heavy weight just fell off of me. It felt like depression for so long. Now I realize that it wasn't classic mental health type depression. It was a depressed system that was never had permission to play, not in this way. And so the essence of my joy could show back up. And so that's why I think of joy as jettisoning the things that don't work. Because the moment I had the clarity of the lightness and beauty of the essence of joy and how it could play and joy could kind of weave together and allow my neurodivergent gifted self to express more fully, my life has become much more magical on so many different ways. In fact, it's playful for me to do this podcast with you, because I imagine that we're sitting here having a conversation and we're getting to talk about these things. I imagine you talking back to me and maybe something you would say, or how do you play, or how do you feel your joy? I imagine the beauty of the connection, authentic connection of people who experience a world with nuance and diversity and intensities. I imagine that. And it makes my heart sing. So I think that there's a lot of power in joy and play, even if we're imagining, even if we're imagining things as they happen. In fact, sometimes you can catch me walking down the street with my dog singing a song. Sometimes they're Christmas carols in the middle of summer, or sometimes it's a cool Muppet movie song or a song from one of my favorite artists, because it's playful to me. And sometimes, because I have a little cockapoo and she's kind of funny, I will skip down the street a little bit with her and let my inner child play and raise my joy level, especially if it's been a long, hard day, or especially if things haven't really gone the way that I intended them or wanted them to go. I allow myself to have fun so that the work that is in front of me does not feel heavy. It doesn't laden with me with a lot of difficulty and like this drawn out kind of feeling. I don't even know how to describe it in words, but I think you know what I mean, that heaviness. So our joy is kind of the antidote to heaviness. Joy is the antidote to being so serious and so full of making sure we have justice, and so full of those things that we are allowed to have a lot of freedom, and we're allowed to come into who we are. Because if you are deprived of joy, like say you live in a family where joy was not okay, or you work in an environment that is very heavy and your lightheartedness is squashed, things happen to our biology. Things happen to our memory. Things happen to our interactions and connections to the world. We begin to see relationships more transactional than relational. Joy and play add to the relational nature of our relationships, and things lose their transactional value. And then what happens if we don't get enough joy is our creativity starts to kind of dull. It gets more muted. And I don't know about you, but what I know about me is when my creativity feels off or muted or dulled, then I don't really like being in my skin a whole lot. I would much rather have my play and joy alive and forward in what I'm doing. In fact, when I do podcast interviews and I tell people, I ask all my questions off intuition, that I don't have to make everything heavy and hard and business-like. And not all my podcast interviews are about, as you know, selling things or taking care of things. I don't worry about that business objective. What I'm most concerned about is relational content of us neurodivergent people relating to each other, and the people listening who might not be neurodivergent but wanting to relate to a neurodivergent person, that we have that relationship. And so it's an interesting dynamic. It's an interesting difference, right? Another thing that happens if joy goes away, which I think is something we really have to pay attention to, is we forget why we started things that are important to us. I remember one time I was working on a quilt, and I love my quilting, and I had a lot of other pressure and things happening in my life, some medical things, some work things, all different things. And I started feeling that existential loneliness and that existential kind of heaviness. And so what I realized was I wasn't playing very much, and my joy was in there somewhere, but I wasn't real connected to it. And so I started wondering why I even started the quilt, or why did I even have that hobby, or does it all even matter anyway? I remember one time looking out the window at my house, and it was winter and the leaves were off the tree up here in North Carolina. And I remember thinking, is this all there is? And in that moment, it clicked in my head. It's time to jettison that belief and that understanding. It's time to jettison the idea that that was all there was. And it was a result of joy deprivation. It was a result of play deprivation, because I'm a very intense, gifted woman, and I like to get things done. I like to create things. I like to work. I enjoy it. But I got a little lopsided over here dealing with a lot of unexpected things along with my other required things. And the joy and play took the back seat, and it took a toll in my life. It takes a toll in a lot of my clients' life. Most of my clients that I work with call me and they start working with me because they're stuck without joy and without play in their life. And they're having a hard time getting out of the rut. And so they need some help with their mindset and the way their brain functions, and understanding the biology and the functioning and the mentality of a neurodivergent person. We want to be sure that our life does not become some kind of marathon, like an endurance test. That's not the goal. Our goal of our life is to live it fully, to experience all of the range of emotions, to be able to experience any experience that is safe and honorable to our bodies and our minds, to dive into things that are important to us. Those are the things that are important. That's how we know joy and play is active and free in our lives. And so, when we have play involved in learning, we learn it much faster. We learn the content faster. And so I don't like games or gaming very much. Some things a little bit, but that doesn't resonate with me like it does other people. But I like other kinds of play. Like I said, like skipping and doing silly dancing and movement and playing with my dog. So you find the play and the joy expression that works for you. And for a lot of us, it's lots of different kinds of things. So here are some things you can do on a daily basis to help bring joy and play into your life a little bit more. One is to give yourself some unstructured time. A lot of people that I work with are really good at the calendars and everything's blocked off. And so I'm like, well, where's the white space? Where's the creative space? I had this brilliant business coach a few years back that I still miss. We don't work together anymore because he sold the business, because I would still be working with him. But one of the things he said was, you want to have the beginning of your week kind of filled with the things you need to get done. And by the end of the week, you want to have more white space. That's creative space. That's that unstructured time where you have no agenda. So you can be curious. You can find new things. You can experience. And so you have to have space to do that, especially as a neurodivergent person. You also want to have movement that is fun. Like I like to go to the gym and do movement that way. Some people think it's work, so you want to do movement that's fun. I have another friend of mine. She loves Zumba. I like Zumba, but I don't love it. She'll do Zumba in the aisles of the grocery store to entertain the people, to have pleasure in her movement and fun in her movement. I know other people who like Pilates and stretching or yoga or martial arts. Whatever kind of movement that brings you pleasure will help increase your joy, help you connect with it more, and help you bring play in. So whatever project you're working on becomes magical and amazing. It's really kind of fun. And then you also want to create something without an outcome. It's really fun. Like sometimes I'll just sit down and I'll just get on my keyboard or I'll grab a notepad and I'll just start writing. And I've had people say, well, what are you working on? What are you writing? I said, I don't know. I'm just writing. Let's see what happens. Or maybe I'll start working on a craft project and I'm not really sure where it's going, but it'll tell me where it's going. And those kinds of things are really fun. So what can you create without an outcome? Some of my friends are painters and they do it with painting. Some people I know like to build things. And of course, I work with so many musicians. And so they can just pick up their instrument or sit at their instrument and let the music fly through them and not really have an agenda. That's how you add joy and play to your life. You don't have to have an agenda for the outcome. And the last thing I want to talk about these kinds of everyday practices is being able to laugh without feeling guilty about it. Like have a good time, watch a funny movie, laugh at goofy jokes. I love those silly videos that are dog and kitten videos. Like those are fun for me. Or have like little small pleasures in the world, things that will make you laugh or smile in a cool way, like candle scents or cool breeze on your face. Or for me, it's like this nice comforting tea in the evening as I'm winding down. Whatever those things are that are kind of rituals, things that you do regularly to increase your joy in your play, those activities begin to register in your nervous system and in your biology. And soon your system becomes all excited when it knows it's going to have a play and joy time. And then your creativity is enhanced, your production and your productivity and your work is enhanced. And most importantly, your relationships are enhanced. Your relational part of your life where you can relate to another human being, you can relate to animals, you can relate to nature and to yourself and to the greater world much more easily and much more authentically. It gives you permission to drop that mask and to be your authentic you, which is what we're all here to do anyway. So what I want to invite you to do is think about some of these things and ask yourselves, what can I do to have more joy and to bring play into my life? How can I make friends with unstructured time, right? Doesn't have to be a lot, but make friends with that. Allow yourself to come off screens and experience things. Play with clay maybe, or finger paint. Something that involves your senses will really help you have your joy and play back in your life. Because when we're deprived of joy, we can feel heavy and depressed and unfulfilled. And the goal of this podcast, the goal of all of my work, the goal of my upcoming book, Care for the Neurodivergent Soul, is all about you feeling loved and connected and seen and heard. So if any of this resonates with you and you want to talk about it further, you can schedule a get to know you call, and I'm happy to jump on Zoom and talk to you about this or anything else. And so I want to thank you for listening, and please put comments to this show and let me know if there's any topic you want me to cover, because I'm happy to do that for you. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne saying, put your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there, play, let your joy show up, and be that mighty force you're meant to be. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, be well.